Okay, today in the House of Commons, we have a no-show from Justin Trudeau. Why? He's even in the area. We know it. He's reporting it. So it's a no-show. And Andrew Scheer is taking all the hard questions.
Given what is
but here's his explanation. Watch this.
Would like to see more than the one accountability session per week that the other parties appear to have agreed to.
We also believe that virtual accountability sessions should be designed in the all-party forum that is already working on the issue. The Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs held their first meeting last week, and they should be allowed to carry out the job they have been given. If the NDP and the Bloc Québécois have joined forces with the Liberals to limit accountability, they can explain themselves to Canadians in the coming weeks.
We also believe that virtual accountability sessions should be designed in the all-party forum that is already working on this issue. The Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs held their first meeting last week, and they should be allowed to carry out the job that they have been assigned. And if the NDP and the Bloc have agreed with the Liberals to limit accountability, they will have to explain themselves to Canadians in the coming weeks. Conservatives believe in oversight and accountability. Millions of Canadians are going to work every single day to help their neighbours get through this pandemic. Parliamentarians should be doing the same thing. Right here on Parliament Hill, construction workers are continuing to renovate Centre Block, a project that is expected to take at least 10 years. If they can safely renovate the building that houses our Parliament, then surely we can do our duty to uphold the bedrock of our democracy. La question est là.
That is the issue. Democracy. The right of Canadian men and women to be represented by their government, for their concerns to be heard, for their questions to be answered.
So many questions raised throughout this pandemic, Madam Speaker, and Conservatives have been asking those questions. We haven't always gotten answers, but we're going to continue to press for them. And the need for these accountability sessions is made evident day after day. Why can't the Prime Minister tell Canadians when new ventilators will arrive? It was in this chamber on March 12th when I asked the Deputy Prime Minister what the government was doing to obtain new ventilators. She said at that time that they were leading a national procurement strategy. 30 days later, the Prime Minister in this chamber said that the first ventilators would be weeks away, Madam Speaker. That's unacceptable. Why were millions of masks and protective equipment destroyed and not replaced? Why are government programs changing every single day? These are the kinds of questions that Canadians have, and they deserve answers from their government. Because vulnerable Canadians don't have another month to wait around for help. Les vies et le gagne-pain.
The lives and livelihoods of Canadian men and women literally depend on the government's adequate response to the pandemic.
The Prime Minister continues to warn that this process will be long and arduous, but so far that hasn't just meant dealing with his pandemic, but also the decision-making process. We owe it to Canadians to work our absolute hardest to get this right. And since this crisis first began to take shape, it has been the opposition that has often been leading the way on the useful, practical actions that have been taken to protect Canadians. We called for tighter restrictions on travel and at the border. We called for the wage subsidy to be raised from 10% to 75%. We called for seasonal workers and those with limited incomes to qualify for the emergency response benefit. Now, the Prime Minister said that he wanted a Team Canada approach. Well, we've given him one, putting forward constructive solutions every day to help Canadians affected by this crisis. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister and his ministers have chosen to try to do this on their own, and the result is that virtually every day they're having to make changes to their policies. If we were working these policies out together, each side playing to their strength, every region of this country represented, as they are supposed to be, the government would get things right the first time around more often. Now, the Conservative caucus is determined to do the job we were elected to do, represent the voices of Canadians from coast to coast, to keep Canadians as healthy and safe as possible. We're here because we know that Canadians are depending on us. And in this Conservative caucus, we will not stop working. The government House leader said that la main est toujours tienne.
He said that his hand is always extended. Extended, yes. Our hand is also always extended.
As well, Madam Speaker. The government House leader said that this isn't about partisanship. I will remind him that it was his leader, his Prime Minister, who yesterday told something to Canadians that he knew wasn't true. He said that tomorrow there would be 338 MPs. Look around, Madam Speaker. We have done exactly what we told Canadians we would do. We would be here in a responsible manner, respecting public health guidelines while still representing Canadians. And for the Prime Minister to try to conjure up fears when he knew that was never going to be the case was not only disingenuous, but it undermines his credibility. At a time when Canadians are looking to him to be open and forthright, when he does things like that, it shakes the confidence that Canadians have that he's being truthful on other matters. And it was a shameful example of partisanship yesterday, Mr. Speaker. I've heard so many comments from members that to me indicate that they're allowing the perfect to become the enemy of the good. It is clear that there are going to be challenges for in-person sittings. We could have spent the last 2 weeks talking about how best to deal with that, how best to limit the impact in the House of Commons, how best to ensure representations from each caucus would be allowed to participate. The default position is for Parliament to sit, Madam Speaker, and it is incumbent upon the government to explain why it shouldn't in a time of crisis. We've already seen examples of the government using this crisis to their advantage. Remember the first time that we were called here? I know the Honourable House Leader does because we were both here until very early in the morning. Because when we were told to come to Ottawa to pass legislation to help get benefits in the hands of Canadians, this government wrote itself massive new powers, giving itself broad powers, ignoring the role of Parliament in terms of taxation and spending. And it was because Conservatives refused to go along with that we were able to protect our democratic institutions. The second time we came here, the second time we were given a bill and we were told that we were going to be summoned and it had to be passed by the end of the day on that Saturday. Well, we rolled up our sleeves. And
there are other parties, such as the Bloc Québécois, that gave the government carte blanche, that they would agree with the bill. But we did our work last week, and we found weaknesses in the legislation, and we improved the bill thanks to our work. So if other parties don't want to do the work, we are ready to do this, the work that Canadians have given us the responsibility to do.
Canadians who we represent here, Madam Speaker, I move that the motion be amended in paragraph H by A, by replacing subparagraphs 4 and 5 with the following. 4, during the period the House stands adjourned pursuant to this order, the committee shall meet in the chamber at noon every Tuesday and Wednesday, provided that the committee shall not meet on a day referred to in Standing Order 28.1. B, by deleting in subparagraph X the words "or a Thursday." C, by deleting in subparagraph 11 the words "and Thursdays." And D, by replacing subparagraph 18 with the following. 18. Following the report of the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs pursuant to its order of reference of Saturday, April 11th, 2020, if that committee recommends the implementation of virtual sittings, and if the Clerk of the House indicates that they are technologically feasible, the House leaders of all 4 recognized parties may indicate to the Speaker that there is an agreement among the parties to hold 1 additional meeting of the committee each week by video conference, notwithstanding subparagraph 4, with members participating by video conference, and the Speaker shall give effect to that agreement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well, please leave your comments down below if you think that we should be back to Parliament. And if so, how can we change these other parties' minds that they should be accountable to their citizens and show up 3 times a week? Good day.